The boy's name was Eli Turner, and at first glance, nothing about him suggested history was about to be made. He was 12 years old, thin, with slightly messy hair and shoes that looked like they had seen too many long walks. He stood alone at center stage under blinding lights, the kind that make even grown adults forget their own names. The audience murmured softly, scanning the stage for something impressive, some clue about what was coming. All they saw was a nervous kid and a small crate resting beside him. Eli swallowed hard and took a breath that trembled in his chest. This stage was louder than any place he had ever been, louder than his small apartment, louder than the alley where he used to practice, louder even than the memories he carried. He glanced at the judges' table, where expressions ranged from curiosity to mild skepticism. One of them leaned forward, another raised an eyebrow. Eli knew what they were thinking. A boy and a crate. What could possibly impress the toughest judges in the world? When Eli finally spoke, his voice cracked just a little. He introduced himself and said he was here with his cats. A ripple of laughter passed through the audience. Not cruel, but doubtful. Cats were known for ignoring commands, knocking things over, and doing exactly what they wanted. Dogs could be trained, horses could be trained, even birds could be trained. Cats. That was another story. Eli nodded as if he expected the reaction. He gently placed his hand on the crate and explained that these weren't ordinary cats, and neither was his journey with them. He didn't tell the full story yet. He just said they had been training together for years, and that everything the judges were about to see came from trust, patience, and love. The judges exchanged glances. One of them smiled politely and asked Eli to begin. As Eli opened the crate, the stage lights reflected off 4 pairs of glowing eyes. One by one, 4 cats stepped out. They were different colors and sizes. A sleek black cat with intelligent eyes. A gray tabby with a calm, regal posture. A fluffy white cat with a pink nose. And the smallest, a ginger kitten who moved with alert curiosity. The audience leaned in now. Something about the way the cats moved felt different. They weren't scared. They weren't distracted. They looked focused. Eli knelt down and whispered a single word. Instantly, all 4 cats sat. The audience gasped softly. That alone was unusual, but Eli didn't pause. He stood, raised his hand slowly, and walked backward. The cats followed him in a perfect line, stopping exactly when he stopped. No leashes. No visible signals. Just silent understanding. One judge laughed in disbelief, shaking their head. Another leaned closer to the table, eyes wide. Eli moved into the first routine. He snapped his fingers once, and the black cat leapt onto a small platform that had been set at the side of the stage. With another snap, the tabby followed, then the white cat, then the ginger kitten, each landing precisely, like a choreographed dance. Eli waved his hand, and the cats spun, jumped through hoops, balanced on narrow beams, and even formed shapes together, sitting in a perfect square, then a straight line, then a circle. The crowd erupted in applause, but Eli didn't smile yet. This wasn't the moment he was waiting for. As the routine continued, it became clear this wasn't just training. It was communication. The cats responded not only to hand signals, but to Eli's breathing, his posture, even his silence. At one point, Eli closed his eyes completely. Without any visible cue, the cats moved into position behind him, then gently placed their paws on his shoulders and back, creating a living sculpture. The audience stood up, clapping and cheering. But then Eli raised his hand, and the applause faded. He looked at the judges and said there was something they needed to know. This wasn't just a performance. This was his life. The lights dimmed slightly as Eli began to tell his story. He spoke about his mother, who used to work 2 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads. He spoke about the nights when they didn't know if rent would be paid on time. Then one night, everything changed. His mother fell seriously ill, and medical bills piled up faster than they could handle. Eli was sent to live with his uncle for a while, a man who cared but didn't really understand him. Eli felt invisible during that time. He didn't talk much at school. He didn't have friends. He felt like the world had decided he was too small to matter. One evening, walking home from school, Eli found a shivering kitten trapped behind a dumpster. It was dirty, hungry, and terrified. Without thinking, Eli took off his jacket and wrapped the kitten inside. That kitten was the ginger one on stage. That night changed everything. Eli began rescuing stray cats from alleys, abandoned buildings, and empty lots. He brought them home, fed them, cleaned them, and talked to them. At first, it was just companionship. But over time, Eli noticed something strange. The cats listened. They watched him closely. They reacted when he spoke gently, when he slowed his breathing, when he focused his mind. Eli started experimenting, reading books from the library about animal behavior, psychology, and training methods. He learned that cats weren't untrainable. They just didn't respond to force or dominance. They responded to trust. Every day after school, Eli trained with his cats. He didn't use treats at first. He used affection, consistency, and patience. He learned their personalities, their fears, their strengths. When one cat refused to do something, Eli didn't punish it. He adjusted. He learned. Months turned into years. Then came the twist Eli never expected. One night, his uncle sat him down and said they were moving. The apartment didn't allow pets, and the cats would have to go. Eli felt his chest collapse. These cats weren't just animals. They were his family. They were the reason he smiled. The reason he believed in himself. Eli begged. He cried. He promised to clean, to work, to do anything. His uncle hesitated, then gave him a deal. If Eli could prove that the cats were more than just pets, if he could show they had value, he could keep them. That's when Eli found the audition announcement. He practiced harder than ever before. He trained late into the night, whispering encouragement to his cats, sometimes falling asleep on the floor beside them. There were setbacks. One cat got sick. Another refused to perform for weeks. Eli nearly gave up. But every time he felt like quitting, the cats would curl up around him, purring softly, reminding him he wasn't alone. Back on the stage, the judges listened in stunned silence. The audience wiped away tears. Eli took a deep breath and said this next part was the hardest thing he'd ever tried. He stepped away from the cats completely and walked to the opposite side of the stage. There was a long pause. The cats looked at him, then at the audience. Eli raised one finger. Without hesitation, the cats ran toward him, leapt into the air, and landed perfectly on moving platforms that rose and fell, crossed paths, and rotated. The timing was flawless. At the final moment, all 4 cats jumped at once, landing in Eli's arms and shoulders, balanced like they had practiced 1,000 times. The theater exploded with sound. One judge stood up immediately. Another covered their mouth in shock. And then it happened. The toughest judge of them all slowly stood, clapping, eyes fixed on the boy and his cats, disbelief written across his face. Eli stood frozen, overwhelmed. He had done it. Not just for the judges, not just for the audience, but for himself. When the judges finally spoke, their voices were filled with awe. They called it one of the most original acts they had ever seen. They said it wasn't just talent, it was heart, intelligence, and connection. One judge said they had never imagined cats could do anything like this. Another said Eli had changed how the world would see animal training forever. Then came the golden moment. The buzzer was pressed, golden confetti rained from the ceiling, and Eli fell to his knees, crying as his cats rubbed against him, purring loudly, completely unbothered by the chaos. As Eli left the stage, he knew his life would never be the same. Not because of fame or money, but because he had proven something powerful. That patience can create miracles. That love can train what force never could. And that sometimes, the smallest boy with the quietest voice can leave the biggest impact. Today, Eli and his cats continue to perform, rescue animals, and inspire millions around the world. His story reminds us that talent isn't always loud, and heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes, they walk on stage with a crate, 4 cats, and a heart full of hope.